How can you leverage LinkedIn not just for smart lead generation, but for building great collaborations? That's one of the key things we're going to unpack today on the Seven Figure Lead podcast. I'm super grateful to have Hailey Rowe here. Hailey and I, not ironically, met through LinkedIn and coordinated and collaborated to have her here as part of the show. And I'm really excited to unpack her story and just learn a lot from Hailey about some of the best practices right now for, again, lead gen and partnerships and collaborations using LinkedIn as kind of our central resource. So Hailey, I'm really grateful to have you here. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna pass the mic over and let you sort of give your backstory and give us a flavor for like who you are and why you do what you do. And then we're really tactical, I think, with a lot of our episode today.
Sure. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'll start with my journey back in high school because I was an old soul from the start and I liked autonomy and I knew I wanted to be into business one day, but I didn't know in what way. So I started selling fitness DVDs of all things in high
Oh,
school
nice.
and had to get my legal guardians to sign my paperwork to do that. And then I
Not to
ended
interrupt, but I gotta know, were you like the star of the fitness DVD or you're like selling?
no, I was just
Okay.
selling fitness DVDs that had fitness stars in them.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
And did that for a while, would go to like a bridal expo or a sidewalk sale and, try to build my email list. And I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship in college. And during that time, I started to get some coaching certifications. So one was kind of in like personal development. It was called Human Potential Institute, and it was all about, improving your life. And so it was a little bit of life coaching. And then I got some health certifications. I trained people in college. I did nutrition consults in college. And I kind of was, trying to figure out how I wanted to combine my two passions of marketing and entrepreneurship with health and wellness. And so I ended up after college getting my first, what I thought was my dream job, because I kept telling myself, I'm not ready to start my own business yet. I need more experience. And I had kind of been starting things on the side, but I never fully committed. I never quit, having other sources of income. And so I got a job working in business development and marketing for a startup that was really exciting and seemed like it had a lot of promise. And it was going pretty well. And it looked like I had an upward trajectory for growth and all that. And then all of a sudden, the entire team got let go because they weren't getting approved to open on the timeline they thought. And so that is when I decided, well, I might as well start my own thing. And so I started individually working with entrepreneurs who were in the wellness space and the coaching space, just because that was the world I was originally familiar with, and helping them with how do you transition to learning marketing and sales and digital marketing and the things that I was doing for these startups. Because when and I did have some subcontractor work working for other startups after I finished what I called my dream job on the way to going to full time. And when I was doing that, I saw firsthand how at these startups, I always thought, oh yeah, they have it all figured out. They got all the experience in the world. And I could see firsthand because they were giving me like a young college graduate projects that I did not feel fully qualified to do. And you just had to learn it and you just had to figure it out and you had a tight timeline and that was that. And so I realized, okay, well, I guess I might as well start my own business because nobody has it all figured out. And so I've kind of expanded my niche to online service providers throughout the years. And I now work with them both in a marketing and sales strategy, coaching and consulting sense, but I also do LinkedIn lead gen services, which is why we're talking a little more about LinkedIn today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I kind of got to where I am.
That's awesome. So when you lost the dream job sort of overnight and decided, I guess now's the time I'm just going to like go figure out and do my own thing. Like what year was that? Just kind of timestamp it.
2017.
Okay.
Yeah, was when I started my own thing and my podcast.
That's awesome. So you had an entrepreneurial spirit and you're selling other people's fitness DVDs in high school and sort of doing arbitrage where you're buying stuff and reselling it. And you kind of created some cash flow there. But then did more of a traditional college route where you studied entrepreneurship. And I think in college, I've heard part of your story, like you were doing some personal training and health oriented jobs or businesses.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like these two worlds seem like they're sort of following your whole journey, where health and wellness, I'm sure that's part of your personal story and journey,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, and then even the startup world, while it's a quote unquote corporate job or W-2 job, I'm sure it feels a lot like an entrepreneurial journey. It's an intrapreneurial, I guess, when you're doing it for someone else. But like you said, it was kind of like, here's all the stuff you need to figure it out. And you realize the big takeaway I wrote down was like, even these people who you really respected and had funding, and you're like, this is my dream job, they didn't have it all figured out, right? Like when you actually got got behind the scenes, you realized they didn't. And if it was that sort of the attitude of like, well, they are successful enough, they don't have figured it out, I can go,
Right.
I'll figure this out. Like it's 2017, I'll figure out a way. Was that the draw to entrepreneurship? It's kind of like, I just want to go try it more than like, this is my lifelong passion and dream. I have to like be in business for myself.
I think it was a combination of things. It was partly that I saw how much I was working at these startups and how
Yeah.
hard I could work. And I figured, well, and I'm very self disciplined, like I'm very intrinsically motivated. So I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I actually think I could work for myself. So there was like part of that. But the other thing is my mission and my passion is really helping people gain a more internal locus of control and do more of what they thought they could. And
Hmm.
also helping people who think they have to dread sales and marketing and have such a negative view on it
Yeah.
actually find what works for them and be able to stick to it and be able to do what they want to do, which is their craft and their passion. Because what's such a shame is so many people who are coaches or speakers or whatever, they get education or they get training or they get certifications, and then it ends up kind of being a sunk cost
Yeah.
because they didn't realize, oh my gosh, I have to become an entrepreneur, and they underestimate what's required to get clients and start a business. And I think that it's sad because they have this passion in this craft, but then they don't end up getting to use it with clients. So that's kind of the other mission that was behind all of this.
Yeah.
And obviously I do like that it's kind of a game, and you can grow personally and professionally and set goals and be in charge of those goals. So there's a little bit of that too, but those are the reasons why I do what I do.
I love that. Yeah. And I like that you wrote, or that I wrote what you said, that like you have these people that you admire, you believe in the work that they do with health and wellness specifically. And obviously you've expanded, beyond just that initial niche. You have a podcast called Health Coach Nation podcast. It's also been going since 2017. So kudos to you for that. That speaks to not only your self-discipline that you referenced, but the fact that you really have a passion for this. Like you can't do something for 8 years like podcasting unless you really do. But I love the fact that you said, I care about these people and I don't want them to dread sales and marketing because they have this great gift to give to the world. They invest in themselves. They learn through trials and tribulations and certifications and all this stuff. And the thing that keeps them from actually making the impact is the sales and marketing, which is the thing you love, right? And I very much resonate with that. I've said before, maybe on this podcast too, like the people I love to work with are people that say like, I'm really good at what I do. Like I have such a passion for the thing I do. I'm just not very good at marketing. And like the thing that we help them with, of course, is podcast guesting as a way to do marketing. And you have your own podcast and business coaching. We're going to talk a lot more about LinkedIn. So you have different channels in service to that, but it sounds like we're on a common mission, like coach the coaches, guide the guides, serve the servicers, or whatever you want to say. Do you feel like that? Like when you think about now, it's 2025, you've got a much more established business and clarity. Is that sort of that driving mission now, is like
Yeah.
empower the people that can
Yeah.
go like impact more people because you're not as much trying to one-on-one impact someone's health and wellness personally?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I liked the marketing and sales stuff more than health coaching.
Okay.
But I believe in the ripple effect of coaching. Like,
Yes.
I think it is powerful when my clients go out and make their impact and get clients because they're able to help people. And then those helped people go out in their lives and do more things. So I do think it's pretty powerful. And I think going back to what you were saying about, that we always think these startups have it all figured out. There's that quote. I forgot who said it, but it was like, it's something along the lines of like, there's someone out there doing what it is you want to do just because they believed in themselves. And
Mm.
like, And I think so many of us, and I even see this with clients too, and this is part of my mission, is like they're perfectionists and they overthink everything and they overanalyze and they never start and they wait until an idea is perfect in their head, but they never get it out there.
Yeah.
And, I think you just have to, I didn't know how everything was going to go or if I was going to stick with that niche or what I would be doing in 5 years from now. I didn't have like a vision plan for the next 10 years. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like what happened. And I think it's really important to take fast action and implement and just decide and then line up with it and make it work.
I love that. Yeah. Take the step that's visible. And then, the next step becomes visible when you do that. And just a funny anecdote, because you said a couple times like they didn't have it all figured out, and that gave you so much personal hope, I guess, motivation, like I can figure this out, because look, these people I thought had it all figured out had to fire me and my whole team because they didn't have it figured out. So like I had this meat sticks brand, Fire Creek Snacks, and so we got into Walmart. And so you're like, oh man,
Oh, cool.
Walmart, could there be a more well-oiled operational machine, right? Like it's literally the
Yeah.
largest retailer in the entire world. It is a complete disaster. Like, like
Oh
going
my
down for
God.
meetings. The meetings, it was like, I felt like I was back in my, 12-person engineering company that I had started with coming out of college. I'm like, this is so, normal. It's just like, these are normal people doing like normal stuff. And then you get into the back end of their systems, you're like, again, like I don't know how many billions of dollars, like it's insane. It's like being an MS DOS, like back in the day. Like I was like, these are the most archaic old systems, and they're like really hard to navigate. I'm just like, if they are literally running the biggest business in the world with this like duct taped together system, is what it felt like as a user. I'm like, man, like I shouldn't be so hard on myself. It's like they literally don't have it figured out, even at the very highest levels. So that's cool that was inspiring to you, and it's been inspiring to me. When I was leaving that company and starting my own coaching business, I'm like, look, like I can do this. I'm smart enough. I figured out how to use the Walmart system. I can figure out how to like use QuickBooks, that sort
Right.
of thing. So, all
Yeah.
right. Well, I'd love to fast forward, Haley, a little bit into like a little more well-rounded description of what you do today and your offers, because people that listen to this are also coaches and consultants, and we like to peek behind the curtain and be like, not necessarily pricing and all that, but sort of like, how do you serve people and how do you
Yeah.
structure your offers? And then we'll spend the balance of our time talking about LinkedIn strategy specifically. So yeah, like tell us a little bit more about your business and how you serve people.
Yeah. So my goal or I guess, obviously when I work with clients on a one-on-one basis or my small group program, it's personalized to what they need the most. But I do have a bit of a framework that kind of summarizes the types of things I work on with clients. And
Yeah.
I came up with it in the sauna one day. That's where I come up with good ideas. And it's an acronym, and it's Grow Your Business the Fast Way. And the FAST acronym stands for followers, action, sales, time management, and transformation. And what I mean by that with followers is we work on first, what is your message and does it need fine tuning? A lot of my clients come to me either not knowing who they're speaking to and what the key pain points that their audience has are, or they do, but something's not landing or they're not having the consistency they want in their business and something just seems off. So looking at the messaging is really important. And then from there, we move into what's going to be their way they're going to grow their following and their audience, what's going to be their lead gen strategy or funnel.
Yeah.
And I work a lot with clients who don't want to use social media all the time to do that. So sometimes we focus on local marketing and local partnerships. Other times I have clients who love social media and doing videos and doing podcasts and all the things. So we do focus there. And then the action piece is, how do you create content, messaging, and marketing that's compelling enough that people want to take action? And how do you get yourself to take action consistently as an entrepreneur? So one of the things that I do a lot of are audits, on people's emails and things like that, and how they're delivering their call to action. And are they saying why someone would want to book with them and why now? Because I think a lot of times that's missed. And the other thing with taking personal action, a lot of times my clients, they are struggling with blocks of some kind, like I don't have enough time and I need to delegate or outsource, or I'm afraid of going on video, things like that.
Yeah.
And then so obviously we work through those, but the sales piece is looking at your business model, making sure it makes sense, making sure your pricing is solid, that you have a sales process, whether that is doing a discovery call or having a webinar or whatever that looks like, and fleshing that out, making sure you're overcoming the common objections in your marketing. Because at the end of the day, if you're a coach or consultant, a lot of times it comes down to how many people are you meeting, how many people are booking calls with you, and how many people are you closing, right? And then that can be scaled up at some point with a really good sales page or webinar or things like that. But most start there. And then the time management piece is helping you know what to focus on each week and what to prioritize and what to also put on the later list and say no to, because overwhelm is a common theme that I hear from entrepreneurs all the time. And usually that comes from feeling like you can't, you don't have the capacity to take something on, or you don't have the skills. And so breaking things down is really important. And then the last part is transformation. And that just means making sure that the point A to point B of your offer is really clear, it's differentiated, that you have good case studies or testimonials on how to acquire those so that you can use those in your marketing. And then just the transformation of your business overall and who you have to become in the process. So, in a nutshell, a lot of my clients, it's really from start to finish, figuring out what's your next product or service you're going to launch. How are we going to do that? Working backwards, all the things. And then from the LinkedIn lead gen perspective, that's a little different. That's more of a done for you service I do with clients. Yeah. And it's a very simple service, meaning we do not do an entire funnel that's an automated message series to someone, because if you've seen those on LinkedIn, it's a turnoff. It's, we do a more conversational approach where we do targeting for you of who you're trying to target, whether you're trying to target partners or speaking opportunities or potential clients. We figure that out on a strategy call. Then we set up the targeting for you in Sales Navigator. Then we do the maximum amount of connection requests that we can send out per week, which is 200 currently. LinkedIn, every once in a while, they like to change that every couple of years, but right now it's 200. And then we do a connection message and a second message after the people accept your connection request to start the conversation, which either leads to the call or the podcast booking or whatever it is. And they're going to be in your network after that. And we also can do blasts to your current network if you ever have something exciting or you want to reignite a conversation or something like that. So it's very, the reason why I don't recommend, like, beyond that, our client steps in or their VA steps in or something and takes whatever the action is. Either at that point, someone says, yes, I want to book a call or tell me more or whatever. And then we the client steps in. And the reason we do that is, like I said, if it's a pre-made funnel where then the person answers you and then you keep sending these random pre-made messages, it just doesn't go well. So we do a little bit of a conversational approach.
I chuckle because I think we've all received those if you've spent more than a day on LinkedIn. And I also understand the temptation, right? It's like, automate everything. Well, conversations really shouldn't be. And so I'd love to dig into that. So two primary ways you work with people: coaching, could be one-on-one or small group, but you got the FAST framework, followers, action, sales, and then time management over into transformation. And then we kind of ran right into it, but I want to kind of reiterate the LinkedIn part since we want to dissect that a little more. So you've got this coaching side of the business and you've got a done for you service. And I think really smartly, you've limited the scope of that to a very specific part of the vital part of the marketing process on LinkedIn. So you said you guys help with the targeting and then the connection requests, and then some initial messaging to kind of get people prompted to kind of raise their hand and say, yes, I'm a good client. And then your client or their VA kind of takes over from there to pull them into whatever process they need to get into. Is that a fair summary, kind of everything? Yeah. Awesome. So if you want to double click a little bit on the LinkedIn strategy, I think maybe we kind of go in order. So when you think about targeting, you said something interesting that I picked up on, if the listener picked up on it. I think most of us think of targeting on LinkedIn, we're like clients. Like I want to like find my ideal clients. And so that's who I write to and that's who I DM and all that, which obviously has its application. But you mentioned like collaborations and I think you said podcasting. So maybe tell us in your world and with your clients, what are the different types of targeting? Because it sounds like it's not just a one funnel approach.
Yeah. Yeah, so here's a couple options. One would be, are you trying to get on podcasts? Because you can reach out to podcast hosts.
Yep.
Another would be, are you trying to do guest talks? Like, for example, is there masterminds or group programs or summits or events that you could connect with the hosts of those kinds of things and collaborate or do a cross promotion where maybe they come speak to your group and you go speak to theirs. The other would be local speaking opportunities. So if you're, for example, some of my clients do corporate wellness or lunch and learns, or they're trying to reach the HR departments to get into speaking at companies, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, the other example would be, one of my clients, she was an executive coach, and one of the connections she made actually ended up getting her a part-time coaching job at a company for like, I think it was like 80K a year or something like that. So that a job opportunity sometimes can come out of this. And
Yeah.
then the other thing would just be promos, like partners. So in other words, maybe you're not guest speaking for each other's audiences, but maybe you guys are complementing each other in what you guys do. And maybe you share each other's lead magnets with each other's email lists, or maybe you
Yes.
do a content shout out where you tag each other, or you do an Instagram live swap or something like that. So just general partnerships can be another option, or referral partnerships. That's another big thing. I've had a therapist who just formed a bunch of referral partnerships with other, types of people who had her clients as their audience.
Love that. This is like my jam. So a lot of times we will kind of often start with podcast guesting because it's kind of like if you have an online business, we can pretty much find like an application of that, and then we kind of we stair step from there into some of these other partnerships or relationships, collaborations. There's so many words. It's like no one's really got like the word for this. Partnership marketing, I think, is a good word, but that actually means
Mhm.
different things in different circles. But yeah, so podcast opportunities, guest training opportunities. I really like the idea of local speaking opportunities. Even if you have an online business, it makes the search so much simpler. It's like, how about within 25 miles of where I'm sitting? And then I look for these opportunities to go out and get business. If you can serve local businesses, like why not do that? Why not like own your
Yeah.
market while you're doing online business as a whole? I think that's really smart. And it's so much easier to target than like trying to think of the blank slate of all businesses on LinkedIn. And then that last part is one of the areas I've specialized in. Honestly, I haven't really used LinkedIn to get there. I've went more the podcast guesting route as the primary source, but partnerships around promotions, referral partnerships, I guess affiliate partnerships would fall in this bucket if it's like a commission based referral. There's so many we could talk about. Maybe in that last bucket, maybe a client example or your own business, any sort of favorite stories to tell, like of someone who's used LinkedIn and found like a key partnership and what that did for the business to kind of get people's wheels turning on how this could apply to their business?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think I'll just share myself as an example because
Perfect.
I was just only because this morning I was doing a little bit of data tracking and I was looking at where my top partnerships have come from and who they are. And one of my top partners, I did find through LinkedIn and we connected through there. So it's actually an insurance company for wellness professionals. And, you know, I did a guest talk for their audience. We have an affiliate partnership. Sometimes my clients need insurance for their business, things like that. So
Yeah.
that's just one example. And I track to how many calls I get that are both like potential client calls and then partner calls on each platform. And LinkedIn has always been the one that produces the most calls and the most clients and the most like positive partnerships, just because I think it's because this is my theory. It's a networking platform and people are
Yes.
more direct there and people are looking for all those kinds of opportunities there versus on Instagram and Facebook. People are there scrolling for entertainment.
Yes.
They're not always work mode on those platforms. So that's kind of my theory. And also it's so findable. If you have a niche that's findable with a job title or a certain type of company or things like that, that can be really easy to use LinkedIn and efficient because you can find them very easily rather than on Instagram. They may not be showing that in their profile or you can't search like certain things to make it easier. So just
I love
something
that.
keep in mind.
Yeah, your insurance company is a perfect example. Like one of the strategies here, which I know you teach as well, is like who serves. So first you get clear on your ideal client, and you mentioned that that's the first part of your framework. It's a big part of what you do in your coaching. Once you know who that ideal client is, then you can start asking questions about like who else serves this ideal client but in a different way, right? And that starts to really create a fun strategic exercise around partnerships. And so for Hailey, she's in the health and wellness space, she's a coach in that. Could she go collaborate with other coaches? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some room for that, especially if they're geographically based or they kind of have different specialties. Like, hey, we work with bodybuilders and we work with
Yeah.
meditation experts. There's definitely room to play. But like an insurance company, they are insuring health and wellness coaches and providers. Hailey provides sales and marketing help to those same people. It's like a total good marriage of you help my people, I'll help your people, and we have the same ideal client. We just serve them in totally different ways. So I think that's like a really beautiful example. Do you have any prompts or just anything else
Yeah.
like along those lines, just to help people ideate on like how can I find
Yeah.
collaboration opportunities? Because I feel like we so often get tunnel vision and we only look for people just like
Right.
us or people
Right.
that are just our client, but people aren't very good at thinking of these sort of like Venn diagram overlaps of like they serve and I serve and we can help each other. So any prompts or ideas on that, Hailey?
Yeah. So some ideas might be like, for example, it's one of the things I have in my program is something we call the leads finder list. And it's basically different tabs. Like I'll put an Instagram tab, a LinkedIn tab,
Yeah.
a YouTube tab, a podcast tab, a local tab, a conferences tab, like all the different things. And based, obviously we decide what the client's main marketing channel is going to be, and then we kind of focus there. But the thing that you want to do or think about within each of those tabs is like, where does my ideal client hang out? Who are they listening to? What are they watching? And if you're not sure, you can start searching. Like, for example, with podcasts, you could search certain keywords your ideal client might be looking up and see what podcast shows come up. And then
Yes.
what happens is you go down this rabbit hole where I follow one podcast like that.
Yeah.
And then iTunes is like, or Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
you probably would also like all these podcasts. And then you find more, and then you find those hosts and you follow them on Instagram. And then Instagram says, oh, here's more like this to follow. So you kind of go, once you get
Plug
one,
yourself into
you,
the algorithm.
yeah,
Let the algorithm
yeah,
guide you, right? Yeah. So
exactly. And so I'll give you an example. So I do marketing and sales coaching, right? And so I've collaborated with a lot of web designers throughout the years because sometimes my clients need websites and their clients need traffic to the website. So it's a beautiful partnership. So when you're going back to how do you have prompts, think about a couple things. Number one, who complements what I do, and meaning they don't do the exact same thing as me, but they're kind of in the same industry or they work with the same audience, but in a different way. That's prompt one. Number two, who has an audience that is aspiring, and I think a lot of people think, oh, I can only collaborate with people with the exact same size audience as me. And that's just not true. So, maybe true. Maybe you don't start with someone who has 6 million followers if you only have 300. However, do reach a little higher. You will be surprised at who responds, especially if you have a niche audience and it's a value to them too, to get in front of more of those people. I got to interview Amy Porterfield on an Instagram Live. I've had JJ Virgin on my podcast, who's a big name in the wellness field.
yeah.
If you just ask and you're thoughtful in your ask and you customize it and you communicate the benefits, it can be really positive. The other thing is think about values. So if you guys share values with your partner, like you guys are both like, you and I, Dustin, are here in Illinois, in the Midwest, and probably very family oriented, and our values match. And here we are collaborating because you do podcast stuff and I do marketing, so it just makes sense, right? And then the other thing would be, you're going to want to start to notice the patterns as soon as you start doing these partnerships, because you don't really know until you try. But I will tell you, I've done so many podcasts, and I know for a fact the ones that get me the most results and clients and email subscribers, for example, are the ones that are really tight within my niche. And so now I just do more of those instead of ones that are more broad all business owners, product-based business owners, service-based business owners, all types of, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try. So that's the other thing, is just start to pick up on patterns.
Yeah, so much good stuff. Could talk literally another hour, so I'll add a little bit of affirmation, I guess, to that. Like, cause I love the strategy. I love everything you shared. I love so there's like the complementary, aspiring, or there's different people in this. And actually teach the same thing, but at a different point in the spectrum. So it's people that teach more beginners or teach more advanced than you. Like, you
Yeah.
can totally like work with each other because you're think like you're the meat and the sandwich. There's a top and bottom bun, right? Like there's like I often think about offers, like, hey, you need like bonuses that prepare people for your main thing and like get people beyond your main thing. Same thing is true of relationships. There's great people that are complementary in that way. In the aspiration spectrum, values, I love that. Like, yeah, maybe it's just like we are both fans of the same sports team, or we're both the same faith, and like that's a good reason to like collaborate, because you have an implicit trust, you have other things to talk about, and they're much more likely to say yes because you share those values. And then once I think really important here is like you've got to put in some reps. You've got to go out and ask, and you've got to do, let's say, podcast guesting, because that's one of the forms of this. You've got to do it repeatedly in order to find the signal for your specific application, meaning, like you said, pattern, because you'll find the 80-20, but it's really hard to predict a lot of times. It's like, oh, I didn't really realize, but after I did 10 of these, I realized this is the 20% that drove all the results. And so now I can get even more specific with the next 10. I think that's a really important lesson. And so people know I do podcast guesting. I've had really good partnerships with people that help people with podcast hosting, right? That's, even though it's very related, it's actually very different skill sets. I've had people that do help people get on TV. Well, I don't help people get on TV. I just help them with podcasting, or help people speak on physical stages. Podcast guesting is actually a really good complement to that. And and book publishers. And I'm trying to think of like John Meese is my top referral partner. He teaches like how to launch group coaching programs. Well, the marketing through podcast guesting is something he's used, he believes in, he's a client of mine. So it's easy for him to refer people to me, and I refer people to him because, hey, great, you got leads, you're doing one-on-one coaching, you need to scale that, like go to John. So I'm purposely kind of rambling through this because I hope it gets people's wheels turning about all these opportunities just kind of sitting out there for them. So I think the last thing we should kind of hit on, Hailey, before we tell people how to work with you to help them with this. So let's say we've got some really good ideas rolling, we've got some collaboration partners, and we're pretty comfortable with LinkedIn. We got a LinkedIn profile. How do you then get the partnership, right? Like, is this putting a bunch of content and letting people come to you? Is it like DMing them? Like, give us some ideas for how to solicit, say, our first 3 to 5 partners once we've got a good ideation process that we just went through to identify them.
Yeah. So typically the process will be, you'll send a connection request, you will engage with them, you will ask a question around collaboration, and then you will either book a call or discuss the options or brainstorm or see where they're most active and you're most active and which kind of collab makes sense. So typically, I mean, it does help to have content out there and your profile set up in a way that communicates, hey, that these are the kind of partners you're looking for. And does anybody know in their network someone who might be good to collaborate with, and stuff like that. But
just
most
look credible, look like, doesn't have to be super polished, but don't have like the blank banner image.
Right. No profile picture.
Yeah. You haven't updated your employment history
Job
in 4
from
years.
like 1998 as the latest position that you're in.
We joke because this actually happens. I know you work directly with people on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Or I love when I get the cartoon profile pictures for like a Pokemon character or something. Like, who are you? Or the fake AI doctors. Have you seen those profiles? Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyways, where I was going with all this is when I say ask a question, it's rather than, and this is, I think, the biggest thing, you don't want to just make assumptions or send a salesy pitch like in the first message. Hey, do you want to buy my program? Or hey, do you want to have an affiliate partnership with me? Here's my link. It's more, would you be open to exploring collaboration? Yeah. Here's some ideas I thought of because XYZ, would love to chat more. Something very simple like that. And I actually have a free gift for your audience that has a real example of someone who reached out to me about collaborating. and we ended up doing a podcast together, and it took 2 messages to like get that done. So,
I mean, that's literally how
uh,
we connected.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
if we're being fully transparent, it was initially on Messenger, and I was like, I don't really check this. Can we do this on LinkedIn? But same premise. Haley reached out, and she's like, Hey, I think there's some room for collaboration, and now we're doing a podcast swap, and I'm sure we'll end up doing other stuff. But just like a just real time example, I didn't know Haley. Like she reached out and said, you do what you do, I do what I do, as we already talked about. I think there's some room to collaborate. I immediately saw that value. I could see her profile, that she was legit. So yeah, I know you're going to talk about your resource. Were you wanting to talk a
Yeah.
little more about that example, and then we'll obviously point people to how to go get their hands on it?
Yeah, sure. So it's a free class and little sample script for you that takes you through the 5 different ways to use LinkedIn for partnerships and attracting clients.
Nice.
And it has some real life examples of conversations that either led to email subscribers, partnerships, opportunities, calls, clients, things like that. And it's available at haileyrowe.com/LinkedIn. And you can use it and customize it to your brand voice and all that good stuff. But that is available for free for everybody.
Love that. So beautiful call to action. Love the URL. You know, like as the podcast guesting guy, I sometimes I get some cringy people on not cringy people, cringy calls to action where they're like, here's 5 ways to do it. Here's the hyphen version. So, but like really easy. Haley Rowe, and so Haley has an E, right?
HAI. Yeah.
HAILEY, if I could read my own handwriting. And then Rowe has an E also. So ROWE. So Hailey Rowe with E's .com/LinkedIn. And I've got that page up on my computer as we're recording. And it looks awesome. So like a really cool resource. Obviously today we just kind of touched to the tip of the iceberg, I think, on all the opportunity available with LinkedIn. We talked really just about partnerships and collaborations, which I think is amazing, but you can totally use this for clients too, right? Like you can just do the
Yeah.
use the same strategies and direct outreach to clients. Anything else that people should know before we close up here, Haley, about how best to use the resource that they're getting from you, or
Yeah.
anything you're like, we should have totally mentioned this, Dustin? How do we not touch it on it before we close?
Well, the resource gives you 2 examples of how you'd approach LinkedIn from the client perspective,
Okay.
reaching a client, and then the partner. So that's the good news. It's categorized for you. But the other thing I would share is just make sure that, like, to me, LinkedIn is very easy to not have to worry about dancing in Instagram reels or being up to date on the latest algorithm hacks. And you don't even have to post all the time or
Yeah.
every day on LinkedIn to be successful and make it work for you. But just make sure, because I see this a lot, that you're not just doing shiny object syndrome. Like, decide to do it and stick with it, and don't just, do it for 2 weeks and then say, oh, I'm going to move on now. It's something where you got to be consistent with it. I've grown my network to like over, I don't even know what it's at now, but it's like 17 to 18,000 people. And
18,649 if you want. That's time of
oh,
the
thank you. Yes. So it's something like that because I've been doing it consistently. And just so you know, the first 2 weeks are going to be the slowest if you're sending out connection requests because they have to compound every week.
Yes.
People have to actually check their profile and accept it. So the sooner you can start, the better. But just remember, it all compounds and adds up over week after week.
I love that. So that's some good encouragement. Like, I hope you're really excited. I love LinkedIn. It's like podcast guesting, LinkedIn, or my 1-2 punch for marketing. So I hope you're really excited, but I also hope you both take the action to go get the resource. So haileyrowe.com/LinkedIn, and commit to it, right? I'd say like 30 days minimum. I'm sure longer is
Yeah.
better, but it's going to take a while to put in the action and then start to reap the rewards. You're building a flywheel. It's something we talk a lot about on this podcast. And the flywheel takes a bit to crank up, but once it cranks up, it builds a lot of momentum. You can get some amazing results. I know that's been Haley's experience on LinkedIn. It's been my own experience too. And not even doing it like super well, just like doing it and being committed to it has made a big
Yeah.
difference. So, well, Haley, you're a gem. You're awesome. I'm really grateful that we collaborated and that you're able to come here and share your insights about wellness and your coaching history. People should definitely check out the Health Coach Nation podcast if they're in the health and wellness industry specifically. And then they should go to haileyrowe.com/LinkedIn if they want to benefit from LinkedIn, which I think everyone totally should. So, so thank you. Yeah, it's awesome to get to know you better today and to share your story. So, much gratitude from me to you. Thanks for being here, and looking forward to getting this out here and helping some more people grow their business with LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Everybody feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm a Hailey Rowe or Instagram at Hailey_Rowe.
Perfect.